Get ready for your daily dose of WordPress and web development tips, tricks, and insights to help you find success with WordPress. You're listening to WP the Podcast with your hosts, David Blackman and Tim Streifler.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of WP the Podcast, brought to you by WP Gears. I'm David Blackman.
And I'm Tim Streifler.
Today in episode 652, we're going to continue our virtual studio series. This is a series that Tim and I started a couple of weeks ago, where every few episodes we discuss our setup, our cameras, our desk, our lighting, our mics, and we get a lot of questions asked. So we decided, why not sprinkle in throughout WP the Podcast, what it is that we actually use and why we use them. If you haven't listened to that series, go back to episode 646 and 649. Those are two that we started, where we talked about our cameras and our microphones. Today we're going to jump into the lighting setup that Tim and I have and why we chose it.
Yeah, absolutely. And lighting is something that's super, super important and kind of gets overlooked. Like the obvious stuff, if you're trying to up your quality of recording videos or doing virtual meetings and that sort of thing, the obvious things is the camera and the microphone. But lighting often gets overlooked until you get to the point where you have a nice camera, but it still doesn't look that great, and you're wondering why. Well, it's probably the lighting, and so lighting is incredibly important. And let me just tell you how important. When I first started getting into creating videos, I was creating custom videos for my Divi plugins. This was back in 2017 when I started. Well, I didn't have a nice camera, and so I what I did use was my iPhone camera, which is really great. But how I was able to get it good enough to be able to use and promote these videos and stuff was because of lighting. And so I used a tutorial from Wistia, the video hosting platform. They had I think it was called like the down and dirty lighting kit. And basically they taught you in this tutorial how to go to Home Depot or another hardware store and pull together for like under $100 a whole lighting kit. And then they taught you how to, basic positioning and stuff like that. And that was how I created my first videos. And those lighting setup is great. I've definitely upgraded since then for some specific features, and David and I will talk about that. But yeah, I mean, if you're just getting started, that can be a great thing to do. And so using my iPhone, which at the time wasn't even 4K video, and then this lighting kit, I was able to create some really great looking videos.
Yeah, and I will go ahead and just out myself here quickly. Most people would think, audio, video, the camera is the hardest thing to learn and stuff. But I'm going to be honest. The hardest thing for me to learn so far has been how to properly take care of the lighting. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't have a photography background. That's not kind of my wheelhouse. Learning how to get the lights set up properly is so important, and it's something that I've struggled with the most. So if you have any great tips on lighting setups and stuff for shooting video, please leave them in the comments. Let us know. If you got a great tutorial that you love that's knucklehead proof, like for me, knucklehead proof, please send it over. I'd love to hear it. So Tim, what do we have? What kind of lighting do we have?
Yeah, but before I reveal that, David, I want to say you are absolutely correct. Lighting is incredibly hard. On a film set, they have what's called a director of photography, and I've kind of learned what that means in the recent years. And basically, a big part of that is they are in charge of lighting and making sure everything looks good on the film camera. And so, it's that's a whole field, mastering lighting and stuff. So it is really, really tricky and stuff. And so, Now, one thing that David and I have mentioned, you might notice that a trend here with our virtual studio series is we have a lot of the same equipment. And it's because one of us will do all the research, find something, get it, and then tell the other one about it, and then we go out and buy it. We kind of flip-flop. And so, like, David got the audio equipment, I went and bought that, and then I got the desk, he went and bought the desk, and stuff like that. And so we copy each other because we basically benefit off of each other's research and testing stuff out. And yeah, we want to stay competitive with each other in terms of having good quality gear. And so the lighting that we both have is something off of Amazon. And we upgraded probably in the last 2 months, David?
Yeah.
2 months. And it's from Amazon, and these are not fancy lights. You can get them for about $200. They mount directly to your desk, so they're meant for what we use them for, which is like a desk video studio type of scenario. And I pulled it up in my Amazon order, and the seller is IVC. It's IVISII. And so it's IVC 2-pack LED video light, dimmable bicolor 3000 Kelvin, 5800 Kelvin LED panel. Right. So this isn't like a specific, I mean, I guess it is a brand. It's a brand I've never heard of. It could just be like a brand that sells exclusively on Amazon. But they're really good lights. And there's a couple key features I want to talk about. As I mentioned previously, when I was starting out, I was using the Down and Dirty lighting kit, right? It was like really cheap, thrown together from Home Depot lighting kit, and it worked. It didn't look pretty, so it's not something I wanted out all the time, and it wasn't convenient. But also, there's a couple key features that these lights have that is really, really useful. One is the ability to change the brightness as well as the temperature. So how bright you have it, that's pretty obvious. The temperature is the color. So if you want it really, really white, like daylight, or if you want it more warm, like a inside, type of lamp look to it, then you can adjust that. So being able to do that is huge. And then a second thing that's really, really important is these lights have a remote control. And you might think, okay, yeah, that's convenient, but it's not really needed. However, I've come to learn that it really is needed, because if you are making adjustments to the brightness and temperature, you want to be able to do that while you're seeing how it looks in the camera. On your screen, and so being able to do it remotely without having to walk around and adjust the lights is really important. So, anything to add to that, David?
Absolutely. I've got a couple of my favorite features that I think are kind of game changers, and I'm going to be the first to say this. These were my first professional lights that I've bought. Tim and I invested in a lighting green screen kit kind of a long time ago when we were first starting out with our videos and stuff. And it basically was some tripod poles, some very cheaply made umbrellas, and fluorescent lights that they sent in the bag and stuff. So these are kind of our first, or at least for me, my first professional quality lighting. And I love all the features that Tim mentioned, but what he didn't mention that is also these lights come with, and I'm looking around my desk for my remote, and I can't find it, so I'm just going to shoot it from the top of my head, is it will allow you to program different settings for the lights. So like, for example, you can program, you can have, your left light set on A and your right light set on B, and then both lights set on C, which are programmable, like settings in the remote. Groups. It allows you to group different settings. So if you're shooting, let's say a live stream, and you've got the lights coming on and right in front of you, and you're just going live, but you're doing something different with a different scene where camera position changes and stuff, you can program that in with these. So you don't have to keep kind of trying to dial it in and stuff. Once you get it dialed in and you figure it out, set it to those specific groups, and then boom. I mean, come on, that's huge. It's just like a huge time saver and stuff. So very powerful. I felt very inexpensive for what you get as well. I love the warm and the cool and stuff, and I honestly had no clue about Kelvin and how lighting works, and cool, warm. that kind of stuff. But I'm starting to learn and stuff. And believe it or not, it makes a big difference. It's a big game changer for both of our video setup.
Yeah, definitely. And being able to dial in the temperature, the Kelvin setting is huge, because there's not a one size fits all light, because every room is different. For example, I have overhead lights that I turn on. They're like the recessed lighting that are just in my office. And so I can basically match, I don't perfectly match it, but I match it, plus I make it a little bit cooler of what my overhead lights are, so that it looks natural, right? You don't want it to be, you have warm lights all around you and then super, super cool lights right on you. That's not going to look natural. But if you have, for example, like a lot of natural light coming in, well, then you want the light that's shining on you to be more natural. You want it to brighten and focus on you, but you want it to match the surrounding light. And that's kind of the general rule of thumb. And so being able to dial in those settings is huge. And so that's why these lights are great. I'm looking at the Amazon page. They're currently unavailable, as is most video gear right now in 2020. Everyone is trying to do virtual stuff and video production and all of that. And so all of these different lighting kits and stuff. And as we've talked about in the other episodes of this video studio series, a lot of stuff is sold out. But there are other kind of comparable lighting kits on Amazon. But basically, you want to make sure you can change the brightness, change the Kelvin temperature, as well as have a remote, and then also have it mount directly to your desk. So those are probably the big things I would look for.
Yeah, I didn't realize how big the mounting to the desk was versus it being on a tripod and stuff. The awkwardness of that tripod and trying to get it set properly when you're at a desk setup is huge. So having them connect directly to your desk, I can tell you, you do not realize how big of a deal that is. Take it from the guy who had the tripod on his desk trying to get everything set up properly for a long time. It just was cumbersome. It just made it difficult. Having them mounted to the desk is huge.
Yeah,
so,
and especially if you have a standing desk like David and I, where it's motorized and it goes from the down position to the up position. Well, you want it all attached to your desk. So even if you have the tripod behind your desk, so it's not like on top of your desk. Well, if you have a standing desk, then now your lights are all out of position, and so everything stays the same, whether it's up or down or whatnot.
Yeah, huge. So that's a huge factor. So I hope this video series has helped. I think the lighting one is probably the longest one we've talked about so far. So obvious, it's very, very important. So I'm going to throw this out there before we close this episode out. You may be wondering, why in the heck does Tim and David even need all this awesome video equipment and stuff? Well, Tim and I are also course creators, and we're product creators specifically for the Divi theme, which is put out by Elegant Themes. But we've got a new course coming out, and it is, if you're a Divi listener, user, and you're listening to this podcast, we have a lot of Divi users because Tim and I are pretty well known in the Divi community, and we're product creators for Divi. We've got a Divi, beginner's course, how to build a website with Divi, that takes you straight through from not knowing how to do anything with WordPress to being able to build a full-blown website by the time you're finished with this course. I'm saying that because you're going to be seeing a lot more live streams, a lot more tutorial type kind of stuff where we're helping people out on YouTube, on Facebook, and we want to look good, and we want it to look, professional quality and stuff, so that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. If that's a course that's of interest to you, head on over to WPGears.com. We're going to be launching the pre-sale for this here really, really soon. So you're going to get an early bird discount. It's going to be the best deal that you're going to be able to get on this course, period. So head on out. It's going to be launching soon, and check out WPGears.com. Tim, did we miss anything?
I think that's it.
All right, Tim. Until tomorrow, we'll see you then.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We've come to the end of today's episode of WP the Podcast. Join us tomorrow for more daily tips and strategies designed to help you run your WordPress business toward success. Remember to subscribe to WP the Podcast so you can stay up to date with each episode. And don't forget to rate and review us. We'll see you again tomorrow, right here on WP the Podcast.